Good evening, everybody. Today is Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. This is First Alert Plus. Meteorologist Nicholas Snider here. We are talking about yet another system that will be making its way into the area. It is spring after all, and this is a time of change, and when the times do change, at least weather-wise, we are talking about some active conditions. So three big things we're talking about this evening, of course. Very windy conditions headed our way for the day on Thursday. We could be talking about gusts up to 40 miles an hour. With that, we're going to see a big temperature drop as well from the 50s in the morning on Thursday, even from the 80s on Wednesday, down into the 30s and 40s by Thursday afternoon. And before that, we also are talking about brush fire potential. That's something we are definitely going to have to watch going into Wednesday, and we are going to keep a very, very close eye on everything we are watching here with the active weather. So let's talk about what's going on right now. Of course, we have an area of high pressure that is located over much of the eastern and southeastern United States right here, and that's generating some very calm and pleasant conditions over our region. In fact, we have been seeing those pleasant conditions last throughout the entire day today. Meanwhile, this next area of low pressure is located over the Rockies right here. And as it moves east out of the Rockies, what it is going to do is pull in some very warm air that's located to the south right in here, thanks to that southerly wind driven by that high pressure. As it does so, it's really going to gather up some strength and develop into a very strong, potent area of low pressure and a strong storm system headed our way. It's going to tighten up that pressure gradient and, of course, like I mentioned, cause some windy conditions as we head into the day on Thursday. So let's move the map in motion here. Let's talk about the upper level winds here. This is 9 a.m. on Thursday, what we could be seeing. Notice the very, very strong winds that are located over much of Appalachia here, much of the southeastern United States into eastern Kentucky, all the way up into the lower Great Lakes here. That's winds roaring of about, let's say, 70, 80 miles an hour, very high up in the sky. About 18,000 feet high up in the sky. Certainly not going to impact us with those strong winds, but some of those winds will be able to move their way on down to the Earth's surface. And as we look a little bit lower in the atmosphere here, we can see some of those strong winds even trying to make its way down to the Earth's surface right here. You notice here in the, of course, the darker blues and the greens right in here, again, around that 8 a.m. time frame on Thursday. That's when we have to watch for those gusty conditions that we could be seeing over much of the area. And as that area of low pressure kind of gathers up strength and really continues to develop, we are watching windy conditions eventually move on in. Notice this very, very tight pressure gradient. These white lines, they're very close together right in here. And that will indicate, again, the potential of those strong gusty winds over the area that we could see over much of your day here on Thursday. And again, gusts up to 40 miles an hour could be a possibility. So what does that mean? Well, of course, it could knock over your trash can, could blow around some yard objects here or there, could make it difficult traveling even. If you really feel those gusty winds, your car could maneuver around some of those wind gusts. So certainly something that is a possibility here and something that we will be keeping a very close eye on, watching as we head into Thursday. So let's get a better look here. Going to the computer, of course, we are watching those wind gusts as we move forward. And let's talk about exactly, again, what those wind gusts could do. I pulled up a few of our models here. This is Thursday morning around the 8 a.m. time frame. This, again, is one of those vertical images you see of the atmosphere. Down here is the Earth's surface. The red line equals the temperature. The green line is the moisture in the atmosphere. And we have quite a bit of roaring wind here. Again, that's around 100 mile an hour winds at around, let's say, 5 or 6 kilometers above the Earth's surface. Down at the Earth's surface, we're seeing about 10 to 20 mile an hour sustained winds. And within those winds, these higher gusts that are located here in the middle levels of the atmosphere can move their way down to the Earth's surface. That's thanks to this right here, these blue bars that you're seeing. That's indicating that cold air is rushing on into the atmosphere. When cold air moves in, it sinks, so it'll transport some of those stronger winds that are higher up down to the Earth's surface. And that pretty much is exactly what we're going to get as we head into much of the morning hours of Thursday. So again, those gusts up to 40 miles an hour, definitely a possibility here as we're moving forward. Let's get back to what we could be seeing again for the day on Thursday. Let's give you some actual numbers on some of these wind gusts here. So let's move this forward. Again, sustained winds of 15 to 20 miles an hour, certainly a possibility. Where there's less in terms of hills, there could be higher amounts here. So we could be talking about stronger wind gusts and stronger sustained winds over much of, let's say, the western portion of the WSAZ viewing area. West of the mountains we see here in eastern and central West Virginia. Turning on the wind gusts, we're seeing again that 37 mile an hour area over into Huntington. And I'll use my pointer here. 37 mile an hour wind gusts here. 36 mile an hour wind gust in Paintsville, Portsmouth, a little bit less further in the higher elevations where, again, the hills are going to kind of slow the wind down just a little bit. But in these purple areas is where you're going to have to watch for the highest impacts from this. It's not going to be anything like we saw Sunday. There's some good news for you, but it is certainly going to cause some impactful conditions for some, if not the entire region. On Thursday morning. Again, you're seeing trash cans toppled over. You're seeing the porch furniture kind of moved around by that wind. You're seeing maybe even a few power flickers. Definitely going to need to make sure that phone is charged up on Thursday morning in case you see an isolated power outage here briefly during that morning time frame of Thursday. You could also see, of course, again, the trash cans tipped over and the porch furniture moved around, the tarps blown around, the bird feeders, anything. Just make sure those are tied down as well. But we're not going to see any tree limbs or power lines damaged or anything like that. That's the good news here as we're moving forward here for Thursday. And that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of those wind gusts. Of course, that's not the only thing that we'll be dealing with this system. We have a potent brush fire threat that will be headed our way for Wednesday, and we will talk about that right now. So let's move this forward here. Let's look at exactly what we are seeing. Not only brush fires, but also a big temperature drop. In fact, we're going to talk about that big temperature drop right now. Notice the warm air that's in place over much of the central and eastern United States right here. This warmer conditions that we're seeing right in here. If we move this map a little bit further back to the west, though, it is very, very cold over much of the Rockies. This cold air, thanks to this cold front right here, will be moving directly further toward the east and will be impacting our region as we head into, let's say, the day on Thursday and even the day on Friday too. So let's set the map in motion here. Let's talk about those temperatures. Again, Wednesday evening looking very, very pleasant. We're talking temperatures in the 70s and even 80s for Wednesday afternoon. That's going to feel very, very nice over the area. Look at how quickly, though, those temperatures drop. That's thanks to this cold front coming through. We're quickly back into the 50s by Thursday morning, low 40s by Thursday evening, a few areas into the upper 30s. So, of course, we know what that means. We could be talking about a little bit of snow trying to mix on in. And again, it's thanks to this cold front that we're seeing right here over much of the central United States. At this frame, we paused it right over the Mississippi Valley. The windy conditions out ahead of it, the cold air right behind it. And again, it is going to feel very, very cold once this air begins to move its way further and further to the east, causing the development of some winter-like conditions definitely by Thursday evening. And I'm sure that's not the news everyone wants to hear, especially with the first day of spring coming on exactly Thursday here. So let's talk about what these temperatures will do. Again, we are seeing the potential of some snow. We start you as all rain. I want you to notice that. It's all rain. Those greens you're seeing here on our future radar signifying that this is going to be nothing but rain coming through, at least during the morning hours and during that morning rush. So luckily during that morning rush, not seeing impacts from any snow. Moving it forward, though, that's when things will start to change. As we head into the afternoon, you'll notice the whites starting to show up here. Much of western portions of Ohio right in here. Western portions of our viewing area even getting in on that activity. And that will start to, again, move its way further to the south and east and eventually cause some impacts, maybe into the mountains. I think the lowlands should escape with no accumulation. It's going to be a little too warm, but up in the higher elevation terrain east of Summersville, out into Richwood, you could get a coating of snow by Friday morning, and that will be something you have to watch too. That time frame of that looks to be coming during the middle portions of the day into the early afternoon. I think by that evening commute, most of us should dry out, save the mountainous locations. And again, little to no snow accumulation is to be expected out of this. So there's some good news, but still, it's not going to be something too great to see when you're looking at that weather after seeing an 80-degree temperature the day before back into the 30s and 40s. That's almost, by the way, a 50-degree temperature drop in a matter of 24 hours. So it is definitely going to be felt on your skin, and you're going to need that winter coat by Thursday afternoon. Luckily, March Madness going on. Not a whole lot to do outside Thursday except watch some basketball inside. That's probably the best activity you can do. Of course, after watching WSAZ, of course, for all your news and weather and things of that nature. All right, so I mentioned a brush fire threat as we headed into Wednesday. That's also something we are watching closely. Storm Prediction Center, they actually put out the fire risks. That's coming out of the National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma. I want you to notice this. This is our Day 2 fire risk. That means tomorrow. And yes, a good chunk of the WSAZ viewing area, including Huntington and Charleston, in an elevated fire risk right here. And that's indicated by that orange you see right in here. That elevated fire risk for wildfire spread and brush fire spread. And it will definitely something we're watching as we look at this. We're going back to the computer now. I want to give you a close look at exactly why we're seeing this. It's almost like a desert-like atmosphere that will be overhead for this system as it moves through. So let's go to the computer. And again, this is one of our models, trusted model that we typically look at. And again, this is that vertical profile of the atmosphere I like to show you. Moisture here, the closer this green line is to the red line, the more moist the atmosphere is. Temperature in the red. Look at that spread between the dew point of 28, which is, again, very dry, and a temperature of 76. That's relative humidity below 20%. Desert-like air mass. So there's one thing we're watching, of course, with how dry the ground's going to be. Another thing we're watching, too, I want you to notice how this temperature really is very uniform as we go up. It decreases at a pretty steady rate. This will allow some of the stronger winds that's higher up in the sky to move its way on down. We talked about how the cold air sinks, brings some of those stronger winds down. In this case, the atmosphere is uniform. So the lower level air kind of rises up and the higher level air sinks down. It's called mixing, and some of those stronger winds higher up in the sky will be able to mix their way down to the Earth's surface, causing some gustier conditions once again as we head into your day tomorrow. And that's why the brush fire threat is going to be particularly high as we head into your Wednesday afternoon. And that's why the Storm Prediction Center, of course, has put us in that elevated risk. Again, those dew points continue to be very dry. When you see dew points in the 30s, that's a desert-like air mass that's overhead. And you'll notice we are quite a bit into the 30s here. We're talking a 32-degree dew point Huntington, 30-degree dew point in Charleston, 32-degree dew point in Gallipolis, 31-degree dew point Athens, into the 20s even down in Pikeville. Very dry air mass, very dry ground. That's setting the stage for a really, really desert-like air mass overhead, very dry conditions, and of course the winds that will be, like I said, mixing their way down to the Earth's surface will assist in the brush fire spread. The dew points, by the way, don't get any better until we head into Thursday morning, thanks to the cold front that we'll be working on in. Like I mentioned, those winds mixing down, look at these. These are sustained winds of 15 to 20 miles an hour around the region. And you combine the dryness with the wind, brush fires will spread rather easily, hence the Storm Prediction Center putting us in that threat. Winds gusting, by the way, will be even more of an issue to deal with. We'll talk about that right here. With these wind gusts up to 30, 35 miles an hour tomorrow. So it's not just going to be gusty on Thursday, certainly going to be gusty tomorrow. Quite not impactful, though, at least compared to what we're seeing Thursday as far as the gusts alone are concerned. But you combine that with the dryness, You combine that with how warm those temperatures are going to be back into those 80s. Certainly brush fires are going to have to be contended with, and of course that's going to be a big issue. Remember those burning restrictions. This is going to be very important for you tomorrow. Those burning restrictions in Ohio and Kentucky go to 6 p.m. from 6 a.m. So you cannot burn from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. in Ohio and Kentucky during the daytime hours because of those conditions. Those last in the fall and the spring. Of course, we are in the spring brush fire season now. In West Virginia, it's 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. I really recommend not burning at all tomorrow because those conditions are really going to be there. And even after the burning restrictions hours, you're still going to have to contend with that threat. So it is definitely something we have to be careful about. And I do think, unfortunately, we are going to be seeing a few big fires tomorrow with a little bit of smoke in the atmosphere, a tint of haze in the sky too. And that smoke could, of course, impact that air quality for some as well. So we are also keeping a close eye on that. This is First Alert Plus. We air at 6:45 p.m. every Tuesday. Give you the latest info on what we are seeing around the region. Go in depth onto, of course, any active weather conditions that the region could be seeing and give you the first alert to any really impactful weather that's headed our way. A couple of days of impacts that we could definitely be seeing over the next few days that we've touched on this evening. As we go beyond the next few days, it looks like those temperatures will cool off, and it looks like we will see a more wet pattern develop on in. A more seasonable pattern. It's not going to be very cold compared to average. We're talking 50s and 60s, but we're not talking 70s and 80s anymore. But the wetter pattern is certainly going to help with brush fires as we head into the rest of spring. Again, we'll continue to keep you updated on everything on air. And First Alert Plus next week, we'll talk more on anything else that's headed your way. We air on every digital platform. That's including our apps on Roku, the WSAZ app, the WSAZ Weather app, Facebook, and YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, be sure to like and share. And if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. We, again, are every Tuesday, 6:45 p.m. or around this time. In the meantime, I'm Nicholas Snider. Make it a great Tuesday.